This is Duke University.
Welcome, Russ. Thank you very much for coming. Russ Hardin, as you all know, is president of the Woodruff Foundation, but that's not the only foundation that he's president of. He is the only person, I think, in the world who is president of 7 different foundations, each of which has its own separate board, though they have a common staff and they work together, sort of. In any event, and he will talk a little bit about how that is. What I can say about that group of foundations, those of you who follow philanthropy in the South know that the Woodruff Foundation and the Whitehead Foundation and others have really had profound influence on making Atlanta the city that it is. It is one of those foundations that it focused not exclusively on Atlanta and Georgia, they do other things outside of that as well. But when you think about what it has done, what those foundations have done with respect to the social sector in Atlanta, and strengthening it, and seeding it, and supporting it over the years, and of course there's also what they did with respect to, and what Mr. Woodruff did with respect to Emory, making Emory the great university that it is today. All of those things speak about the importance that a place has or can have in a foundation that focuses in a particular geographical region. And we talk a lot about impact among philanthropies in the country. And as I do this and doing a study at this point, I'm struck by how foundations there are in most major metropolitan areas and in many small metropolitan areas, foundations that focus on that area. And they are extremely important in nurturing the social sector in the same way that the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation has in the social sector all across North Carolina. So when I think about Atlanta, I think really first about this nest of foundations and the leadership that it has been fortunate enough to have. Russ and I were talking earlier, the first president of the foundation was Beaufort Jones, who some of you may know was a great figure in social services, social welfare in the South and in the country for that matter. And it's a wonderful heritage that Russ is following on and contributing to. He is, I should say, we're very proud of the fact that he's an honors graduate of the Duke Law School. And his father was also associated with the Duke Law School as a professor, as well as a very distinguished officer at a nearby university, which I guess I can tell you what it is. It's the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Well, I didn't want to say that because I knew you were going to say something like that. In any event, so welcome everyone. It's now my honor to present Russell Hardin, the president of the Woodruff Foundation and the Lady Pate Whitehead Foundation and other foundations.
All right.
Welcome. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Joel. I'm really honored to be here, and it's fun to be here. I'm not only a graduate of Duke Law School, I'm a graduate of Lakewood Elementary School. And I spent 2 stints in Durham from 58 to 68 when my dad was on the law faculty here, and we lived in Duke Forest, and I could walk to school at Lakewood Elementary School. Those were idyllic days, and sold programs at Duke football games. Then I was back here for law school. I haven't spent an awful lot of time here over the years, but in our work at the foundations, we're trying to make communities better, healthier, stronger. And one way, and it's hard to judge. Some of you, as academic pursuit, try to measure impact and effectiveness. Well, one way to do it is to go away and come back. And I can tell you that Duke and Durham are much better places than they were in 1958.
Absolutely.
And in 1982 when I last left. And institutions are an important part of that, and Duke's an important part of why Durham's a better place. But it's wonderful to be back, and it's also a privilege to participate in this seminar series. I'll explain a little bit about philosophy and style of the Woodruff and associated foundations. One of our attributes is we're very quiet, and we don't do a lot of talking about ourselves and about our work. We're the last foundation our size in the world that doesn't even publish an annual report. And so you helped me get over a little bit of the guilt coming here today, and you also give me what's a rare opportunity to sort of bear that philosophy and style and among folks who think seriously about philanthropy and about impact and effectiveness. What I'm going to do today is focus mostly on that. Peter Frumpkin at Pennsylvania talks about Category 1 versus Category 2 philanthropic work. I'm not exactly sure what he means. I think of it more as science versus art of philanthropy. You might call it left brain versus right brain philanthropy, but he contends that Category 2, more the art, is every bit as important as the science of philanthropy. Category 1 would have to do with measurement and evaluation and the science. Category 2, more the art of philanthropy, and I intend to talk more about that today. I hope I won't take too long, and I would welcome all of your questions about those Category 1 issues, how we evaluate and measure what we do and the effectiveness of it, and our specific grant programs. But what distinguishes our group of foundations is probably the latter, a style. We probably evaluate our grants and effectiveness in similar fashion to other large foundations, but we've got a rare, distinctive, maybe contrarian style, and all of that relates to we're creatures of our history, and so indulge me a minute while I talk about history, but first, this exercise has given me a chance to think about and articulate 7 core principles that are central to that style that I refer to. And what I'll do is take about 5 minutes on each of these. I may take a little longer on those donors to help you understand why 7 philanthropic funds came to be administered in one office and why my business card is so busy. So start with, and I'll go ahead and tell you the title of this talk, Unabashedly Responsive Philanthropy, is derived mostly from that 4th core principle, which I would say is central to our philosophy and giving strategy. Responsive philanthropy I choose because I think it maybe has a sort of pejorative sense among those who think responsive philanthropy is not strategic. I'd argue that this brand of responsive philanthropy is strategic and is effective. Donor intent. In our case, it's donors, plural. What the 7 funds that Joel referred to have in common is one very lucrative business, the Coca-Cola business. The fortunes that made their way to institutional philanthropy were all derived from the Coca-Cola business. 2 families, the Whitehead family and the Woodruff family. Today, 7 tax returns, all either private foundations or public charities, supporting organizations, or in one case a trust that are derived from those fortunes that came from the Coca-Cola business, all administered in one office. And the story starts not with Woodruff, but with Joseph B. Whitehead. Joseph B. Whitehead was the original bottler of Coca-Cola. He was a lawyer in Chattanooga who had the bright idea to bottle Coca-Cola in the late 19th century. I describe him, not unlike some philanthropists of more recent vintage, as a high-tech entrepreneur of the 1890s. I would contend that selling Coca-Cola in a bottle, maintaining the quality and the fizz, in the days before refrigeration was just as preposterous an idea as a cell phone or a telephone without a cord 100 years later. Joseph B. Whitehead had a great idea. He made a fortune. He married Letty Pate Whitehead. She was a native Virginian, and some of our philanthropy creeps from Georgia to Virginia because of her interest in Virginia. They had 2 boys. No other family beyond those 2 boys. So there's no family involved in our foundations. They're each independent foundations. One of the boys established a foundation in honor of his father, the other in honor of their mother. And then when she died, she survived all of the men in her life. Mr. Whitehead, her second husband, Mr. Evans, and both boys. She left the bulk of the family fortune, the last third, to the Letty Pate Evans Foundation. What they had in common is they were all very specific about their philanthropy. Young Joe was honoring his father. He was impressed by visits his father made with him to the Georgia Baptist Orphanage in Hapeville, Georgia. And so he dictated that that foundation that he created and named for his father would support children and the poor and needy, orphanages specifically. Well, today, as we divine donor intent, we can't find an orphanage. There's not an institution in Georgia that calls itself an orphanage. We could, today, the primary objective of the Joseph B. Whitehead Foundation is to support disadvantaged kids, kids particularly who don't grow up with the advantage of a nurturing, intact family, poor kids in the Joseph B. Whitehead Foundation. The younger son was honoring his mother. Today we operate the Letty Pate Whitehead Scholarship Program, which distributes $40+ million across 9 southern states. He was so specific about donor intent, he named the 9 states he deemed to be southern. And so if you're from Kentucky, you're not southern. Sorry. Today, we make grants to 200 schools for that scholarship program, need-based scholarships for young women. But what I'll focus on today is the Woodruff Foundation. The Woodruff trusted his trustees. He did not indicate in the charter of what he called the Trebor Foundation. Trebor is Robert spelled backwards. One of his biographies is titled Mr. Anonymous, and he was famous for a very quiet style of giving, which is reflected in our style today. But Woodruff wrote a very broad charter in 1937 when he created the Trebor Foundation. He was the architect of the common administrative arrangement. He didn't employ full-time staff for his foundation until the 1960s when he put Beausoleil Jones to work in his office in Atlanta. Woodruff put him to work in the same suite of offices where the Whitehead family foundations were already operating. He was a very practical businessman. He didn't need his own office. He put Beausoleil to work there. Within 5 or 6 years, Beausoleil succeeded the fellow who was running the Whitehead family foundations, and the common administrative arrangement that exists today was born then. It is a wonderful way, we'll talk about it in just a minute, for us to minimize overhead and maximize dollars out the door. But we still honor the intent of each of these individual foundations as expressed by the donors. In Woodruff's case, because we don't have direction, what we do is follow a pattern and a style of giving that we know an awful lot about. He died in 1985. We still have a couple of ancient trustees who knew Mr. Woodruff and worked with him and were close associates. The day we established a retirement age, they gained immortality. But they are a direct link to Woodruff. A couple of examples of the way in which we practice our philanthropy today consistent with his and in line with his donor intent. The picture on the right is Woodruff and his mother. She died of cancer in the 30s. He established what would become the Winship Cancer Institute before you used the word cancer. If you've been watching the PBS specials this week, if you haven't watched tonight, Burns' third part in the series, but it reminds you of the stigma we used to attach to cancer, like we did AIDS years later. But I think it was the Center for Neoplastic Diseases when it was established. The Winship Cancer Institute, we decided about 20 years ago, was ordinary and not up to Mr. Woodruff's standards. It's part of Emory University. We have redoubled our efforts and invested hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 20 years to achieve NCI designation as a comprehensive cancer center, and elevated the level of cancer care in Georgia. One of Mr. Woodruff's expressed interests, and the only interest expressed in his charter, was to support academic medicine and research. And his goal was to raise the level of medical care in his community so that folks didn't have to go off to New York or Boston or Cleveland to get well as they did back in his day. The Winship Cancer Institute is still a major priority of the Woodruff Foundation. I was thinking about, too, what you say about Mr. Woodruff's role in Atlanta and in civil rights particularly. In his day, he didn't talk about public-private partnerships. I don't know when that phrase was first uttered, but he was for his mayor and he was for his city. In those days, his mayor was Hartsfield, for whom the airport is named. It was Ivan Allen, who may have been Woodruff's favorite human being. And I think it was their friendship and the support that Allen felt that in part emboldened him to testify in favor of the Civil Rights Act. And he was the only Southern mayor who did so. They were close allies, whether it was philanthropy or whether it was moral support and rallying the support of the business community in Atlanta. Today, our board meets next week. The most important grant we'll consider is a grant to help our current mayor, who's tackling pension reform in Atlanta and tackling some other difficult issues that Detroit and other cities have not avoided. And he's out front, and we and others are providing support to our mayor, consistent, I would say, with Woodruff style. He didn't direct us to do that. The second core principle that I suggested when we began was that we take the long view. Each of our funds is created in perpetuity, and that gives us the luxury of the long view. We, unlike politicians who go from one election to the next, or CEOs who go from one quarter to the next, we have a wonderful luxury to think long term. If we've got a constituency, it's our grandchildren, I think. Along with that luxury comes the responsibility, I think, because so few in society have that luxury and responsibility to think long term. The risk, however, is complacency. And Woodruff reminded us in one of his favorite quotes, "The future belongs to the discontented." We consider it not only our luxury, but our responsibility to think long term. Water will be the most important issue in our state and in Atlanta in the long run. You may have read about California's water restrictions announced today. That's coming to our part of the world, and not many folks want to talk about that. We're obliged to do that and to push because we can. We're rare among foundations our size in geographic focus, and that distinguishes us. We, in some of those foundations that I described, have charter restrictions that limit us to Atlanta or that in the case of the Letty Pate Whitehead Foundation, limit us to the South, to 9 states. In the Woodruff Foundation, we're not so limited. The charter is broad. Mr. Woodruff, in his own personal, although his business was global, his philanthropy was very much local, and he focused on Atlanta. And he didn't have, if you'd pushed him to articulate his own priority in philanthropy, it would have been to make Atlanta a big league city and a great city in which to do business, yes, and in which to live. So that's part of the reason. There's a more practical reason for our geographic focus, and it has to do with the fact that we live there. The practical consideration of our trustees is that there's plenty of need right here in our own backyard. We live here. We know this community. We know the leadership in this community. Maybe we'll be better at it here. It's hard enough here, but to engage in philanthropy in other communities. Some of you have done it. God bless you. And we can talk about that. We have the luxury of focusing on our city. The trick is, although there is infinite need in our community, there is not infinite capacity in our community. And so the downside, the disadvantage to this particular strategy is that we have limited capacity, and we can talk about how that limits us sometimes.
Did he specify, I think you said he didn't actually specify it in the charter, but that's what he wanted to do.
He did not,
Yeah.
and but his own philanthropy was focused there. He specified that the foundations would support just about any eleemosynary purpose in the USA. I contend, my old law professor Smallback just walked out of here, I contend that he meant for that to be expansive. And in 1937, he couldn't fathom that philanthropy might go global. I contend that in what is generally expansive language, he didn't mean to limit it to the USA. I've got one lawyer on my board. I got more than one lawyer, but I got one who's insistent that limits us to the USA. We are able to have some impact through CARE, through the CDC, and other important institutions, particularly in public health, without leaving Atlanta. And but if I get too frisky, I get my hand slapped. The core principle that would define our philosophy and style is that we invest in other people's ideas. And when I came to work at the foundations, it took me a while to get used to this. There were other people who Tom knows and Joel knows and others of you know who were wiser and had the wisdom of experience. I thought a really smart guy at a Duke Law School could come in there and figure stuff out that they hadn't, and develop strategies that they had not. In our history, we have never issued an RFP, and I learned the wisdom of investing in other people's ideas. You can issue an RFP and you can get a long line of folks who will sign up to spend your money in pursuit of your strategy. It's my conviction that you'll get a lot further if you go out there and find folks who've developed a strategy, who are capable and smart and have the capacity to do it, and fund their idea. They'll get further with it, and if they're invested in it themselves, then you double your chances of success. Investing in other people's ideas. I'm not sure you accept that that's a strategy or that that's a theory of change. It's certainly our MO. It's our modus operandus. At our very best, we are a venture capital fund for our community's leadership. When things work well, our best grants can be characterized as venture capital invested in community leadership. What that means is the implications for us and our style and structure is that we've got to remain flexible. and we often describe ourselves as opportunistic. We don't enter a year with program budgets or departmental budgets. There are no fiefdoms, and we're even reluctant to define narrowly program officers' responsibilities within our office. Examples of high-profile investments that we have made that I would offer as successful results investing in other people's ideas. This is a before picture of Centennial Olympic Park in Atlanta, circa 1995. If you're familiar with Atlanta, the Westin Peachtree Plaza Hotel on the left there, across the street from it, just beyond it, is the 191 Peachtree building, where our offices are today. Peachtree Street runs behind the foreground here, past the Georgia Pacific building, the Equitable building, the old SunTrust building, and toward the courthouse. All of our convention hotels and downtown hotels, several thousand hotel rooms, are to the left of this picture. Our convention center, the World Congress Center, is to the right of this picture. That's in the foreground is the industrial warehouse neighborhood that existed there in 1995. On the left-hand part of this picture, Billy Payne, a ambitious fella who led the Olympic effort in Atlanta, looked across where all his venues were over here and said, where are we going to put everybody in Atlanta? They're going to be here in about a year and a half. And in particular, where am I going to put all my corporate sponsors that are paying for these Olympics? He said, why don't we just put it right there? And today, there's your Westin Peachtree Plaza Hotel. There's the office building he was looking out of, the Georgia Pacific 191 building, and this would be from the World Congress Center looking across. A 21-acre park. I remember when Pete McTeer broached this idea with our trustees, including, God bless him, Ivan Allen, who former mayor, who was for everything Atlanta. They shook their heads and said, you got to be kidding. You couldn't possibly do that. No, that'll be a mess. Well, several foundations invested $35 million plus in the effort. The state invested in it. Point of all that is we didn't have a plan. We didn't have a master plan for Atlanta. That wasn't our idea, but we decided this guy could pull it off in partnership with the state, and that 21-acre park has redefined downtown Atlanta and become the icon and the center, and it's sure helped our tourism industry. Those hotels are some of the biggest employers in town, particularly of low-income workers. World Congress Center as well, and our tourism industry is really significant. Another investment we made consistent with this philosophy of being opportunistic and investing in leadership was in Grady Hospital. Grady Memorial Hospital, 1,100 beds, one of the biggest teaching hospitals in the country, 1 out of 4 Georgia physicians trained at Grady Hospital. It's where you go if you need trauma care or if you're a burn victim, if you have sickle cell, if you are a premature baby. Critically important and provides a huge volume of the indigent care in Atlanta and in Georgia. For a decade, we watched it lose money year after year after year. It was awful. A politically appointed authority ran the hospital. It was an absolute nightmare, but with all the money in the world, there wasn't a thing we could do about it. 2 leaders in Atlanta, Pete Carell and Tom Bell, stepped up. The chamber got in behind them. Mike Russell joined them. He was also an important part of the triumvirate that led an effort to reorganize Grady and create a private board of folks who knew about business and knew about health care, and take it away from that political authority. We put up $200 million for that effort. we couldn't have invested a nickel until those folks stepped in, and then we made a huge bet there. We could talk all day, and I'd love to talk all day about Grady because it's one of the best grants we've made in the last decade, certainly, and one of the largest grants we've ever made. I offer the Atlanta Community Food Bank up as another one. Its leader, a guy named Bill Bowling, was honored in Atlanta the other day. He's a hero in our community. He was honored by the downtown business community, and I laughed when he was honored as he's retiring, because he first got to know the downtown business community when he would bring homeless guys into their meetings and sit in. Well, he ended up creating the biggest food bank in the country and a network of food banks. And when Bill comes around, he doesn't need to fill out an application. We're an example of us investing in leadership. And we've got one wise trustee who reminds me that we invest in people, not in programs, and who often encourages me, if it's a good grant, is that what they asked for? Give them everything they asked for. So the secret to our success when we are successful is generally investing in leadership where we find it. A corollary to that rule is we like to participate with other donors. We are often the largest donor to a project or an initiative in Atlanta. We are never the only donor. At Grady, our $200 million was part of a $325 million effort. $125 million in our community is a lot of money to raise from businesses and philanthropies. The Centennial Olympic Park, our $35 million investment was big. There are 486,000 bricks in there that individuals bought for $12 a piece at Home Depot to help pay for that. And the state had a big investment in it. I would go a step further with my investment analogy. We like to be a limited partner. We, just like a limited partner who invests in a business venture, we're looking for a general partner who's got a track record. We're looking for a general partner who we've got confidence in, and that usually comes from experience. We don't fund a lot of grassroots, de novo organizations. We like a general partner who's got skin in the game. So when we're considering a grant for a project or program, we want to know what that board has got in it. Those folks who decided this was a good idea, we want them invested in it as well. What the benefits of that are that we don't need to waste a whole lot of time on excruciating oversight and burdensome reporting requirements. Our interests are aligned with folks who've got their own money in it. And we can be assured that they'll look after our investment along with their own. I've referred to our foundations as the Berkshire Hathaway of foundations. I think about the way Warren Buffett makes big bets on companies where he finds really good leadership, and then he tends to stay out of the way. And that's at our best. That's the way we like to do business. This picture is emblematic. The Beltline, Atlanta Beltline, is one of the most exciting things we've got going on right now. We've got big investments in the Beltline. I could tell you about every one of those folks. What's important about this picture is we're not in it. And there are about a dozen folks there, each of whom thinks they're the most important person to the Beltline. And the mayor's in the middle, and I promise that preacher beside him thinks he's important to it. The guy that had the idea, Ryan Gravel over there on the left, is an architect in town. The next guy's a donor who's got a lot less in it than we do, but a whole lot for himself. And across the board, city council people, the success of that Beltline is that all of those folks think that it's their idea, and they feel a sense of responsibility for it. And when you're our size and our community, it's awfully important that you don't let anybody assume that you've got it all or that this is a Woodruff Foundation project. And an extension of that is that we try to maintain a low profile. We limit our role to that of funder. We don't do as much convening as a lot of foundations do. We try hard to deflect credit to our grantees. We don't publish an annual report, but that's not because we want to be secretive. It's because we do aim to be quiet about what we do, and we've got this stubborn insistence on keeping overhead to a minimum. It's important also to note that we do embrace our responsibility to be transparent about what we do. I chair the board of the Foundation Center currently, and we've long been active there out of some sense of guilt that we don't publish an awful lot about ourselves. We use the Foundation Center as a vehicle so that folks who need to know what we're doing do. Mr. Woodruff's on his desk was a plaque with this inscription, not original to him, but he also used to give the same little mementos out to his business colleagues, and that describes his philosophy in business and in life, and still informs a lot of our style. Another favorite quote of Woodruff's is this one. It sat on the mantle in his bedroom, and he was a very accomplished fellow. This one's important. If you're going to operate the way we do, it has implications for who we employ to do that work. And in every job description that we formulate in our office, the word humility is in the last line. And it's, to me, as important as any other attribute of a successful philanthropist. Finally, the last principle, and I'd get fired by my trustees if I didn't include this one, is that we're intent on limiting overhead and bureaucracy, and that common administrative arrangement that I described at the outset gives us a leg up and makes it possible for us to limit dollars spent internally. The fundamental premise always has been that a dollar out the door is better than a dollar spent internally. I will go ahead and tell you we do this to a fault. But it's part of who we are. We're able, because of that style that I described, to minimize the costs of our grant making. Geographic focus helps you do that. If we were doing this work all over the country, we couldn't do it with such a lean staff. Our geographic focus is important. The common administrative arrangement means one office, one computer system, one telephone system, one staff, one receptionist sharing the work of the several foundations. Because of the way we do our work, there's no communications department, and we don't issue RFPs, we don't do press releases either. And so we've got a very lean staff. I had somebody pull Piers. You won't see the assets of the Woodruff and Whitehead foundations aggregated anywhere because there is no umbrella, there's no legal entity, but those foundations have assets of $10+ million, or did at year end, and $10 billion, excuse me, and give away $321 million a year. I admit that 12 folks is not enough to do that, and but the point is we've got a cost structure that goes along with our style that's appealing to our trustees. It's important to finish with the same disclaimer I think that I started with. Our this structure or style is not correct. I'm a big fan of the diversity in philanthropy, the diversity of philanthropy right in Atlanta. Ted Turner doesn't do it this way. Bernie Marcus doesn't do it this way. We wouldn't have an aquarium if Bernie Marcus didn't do it his way. He just does it all. And Ted Turner and his foundation have an affinity for all those grassroots projects and those high-risk grants that we don't. So there's room in philanthropy for all manner of styles. Ours is not the right way to do it. It's the right way for us to do it. And it's been an effective strategy and style for us. I appreciate the chance to describe that for you today. I would love to talk in specifics about any of those projects I alluded to or our work beyond what I've talked about, or answer your questions about what I've talked about today. Thank you again for doing me the honor of inviting me and for coming today and letting me tell you a little bit about how we do things at the Woodruff and Whitehead Foundation.
Thank you very much for coming. It was really wonderful.